Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be testing some AMD Radeon GPUs in XDefiant, what's turned out to be a quite popular PvP shooter. The other day we took a look at multiple Ryzen CPUs in XDefiant, and the game actually turned out to be very well optimized in that regard. We had a Ryzen 2000 all the way up to the 7800X3D. I'll leave a link to that in the description. We'll check out 4 GPUs today. A Sapphire R9 270X 4GB, and an MSI RX 580 also 4GB, an ROG Strix 6800 XT, and a Nitro Plus 7900 XTX. So the fastest current Radeon GPU. Let's begin. For settings, we're going to be targeting 1080p on DX11, and I've set the graphics to a mixture of mostly low and medium. And I also set it to 85% resolution scale. The goal here was to get a around 60 FPS experience. We're going to go ahead and begin here with a random unranked match. This is not the type of games I usually play, so I'm not that good at it. Although I've been enjoying it, even though I don't play this type of game, it has been fun to play. But just saying, don't expect any sweaty gameplay. Quite the opposite, actually. But as far as the test is concerned, we are using a Ryzen 5900X. I'll leave all the specs in the description below if you guys are curious. But the R9 270X is actually a pretty old GPU. I think it came out in 2012, I think. So that's like 12 years old, basically. And even though it does support DX12, it can have issues with some of the more recent games. For example, I did try it in Ghost of Tsushima, and it wouldn't even launch with the R9 270X. It said something about shader model 6 missing or something like that. So that's why I set it to DX11. I figured it would probably run a little bit better in this game, although it does work with DX12 API as well. But anyway, don't mean to digress. We are concerned in the performance metrics here with our 9270X. As you can see, actually the game is very playable. We're getting around 60 FPS. Right now, we are averaging 70 FPS, and for 1% lows, we're in the low 50s, which is not necessarily great, but it's actually not bad. And even though the game is set to low, mostly low actually, an 85% resolution scale of 1080p, there is no FSR in the game or DLSS, so that's all you get is the resolution scaler, which does actually work pretty good. But I would say it's very, very playable, very enjoyable on the R9 270X, and oh my god, I am terrible. But anyway, yeah, I would say the game is very accessible. Free to play, and it actually looks pretty good, even with all the settings on low. But anyway, I think we get the idea of the R9 270X. Quite impressive, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and check out the RX 580 4GB. Let's go through the settings again, and we're targeting 1080p as well with the RX 580. However, we've put the graphical quality preset to high, and I've also left it at the 85% resolution scale because it actually looks pretty good and you get a bit extra performance. And this is another random unranked match that I'm playing, just trying to get a feel for the game. I'm actually, even though I suck, I'm actually getting a bit better every time I play. And I am actually having fun. But the RX 580 on the other hand, it actually runs really well. As you guys can see here, I played for about 10 minutes. We're averaging around 90 to 95 FPS, around that. And the 1% lows are above 60. That's actually very, very good. And you'd still have more room for a little bit extra FPS if you wanted to knock down the graphical settings to low. I think low actually does look good in this game, but I think the high graphical preset looks really good. Now with the higher end GPUs that we're going to check out next, we're going to focus on the higher graphics settings, but for this one I don't think it's much of a compromise. The R9 270X was a bit of a compromise, but the RX 580 is actually really good. I did enjoy my time playing, and if you look at the frame time graph with the RX 580, I have to say that it is noticeably smoother than it was with the R9 270X, but still, it was pretty good on the 270X as well. So again, it's a great game to play, especially, you know, if you have younger kids or whatever. Build them like a low spec PC. they'll be able to enjoy the game a lot. And unlike Call of Duty, you know, it's free to play. And you can actually find these RX 580s on the secondhand market for dirt cheap. As a matter of fact, the one I'm using here, I found it at a yard sale for $3. So you could easily build a system for, you know, for a kid or a nephew or whatever, and, you know, just have them enjoy the game. But anyway, I think we get the idea here. The RX 580 does a really good job at 1080p high settings. You can get around 100 to 120 FPS experience with a pretty decent 1% lows, if I'm being honest. Let's go ahead and jump a couple generations ahead and look at the RX 6800 XT. On the 6800 XT, I tested both 1440p and 4K. So we're going to begin with 1440p here really quick. And for graphics, I set it to the Ultra Graphical preset. Just keep in mind, if you change the presets, it enables VSync on by default. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just turning it off, but it is the Ultra Graphical preset. We're going to check out 1440p and then we'll take a look at 4K. This is 100% resolution scale. So 1440p native. Right away, we have an insane jump in performance from what we were getting with the RX 580, which was running at 1080p high with 85% resolution scale. Here we're at 1440p native ultra graphical preset, and we're averaging 171 FPS. And at this point in the game, I'd already been playing for like close to 10 minutes anyway. I ended up getting cooked, by the way, in this game. Did terrible. But that wasn't the point of this recording anyway. Point was to see how well the 6800 XT does, and extremely well, guys. I'm very impressed. I knew it was going to be a big jump, but I didn't think it would be this big of a jump. So can you imagine if you had an RX 580 and you just upgraded to like a 6800 XT or something, or even like a 6600 XT? It would be a massive jump in PC gaming experience, really. But yeah, very impressed here with 1440p. We have really high 1% lows, 126 FPS, and we're averaging 170 FPS. The frame time graph is way smoother than it was with the RX 580. We were getting a couple hitches with the RX 580 here and there, but with the 6800 XT is very, very smooth. It's nice to see. Excellent gaming experience here, I have to say. But we're going to take a look at 4K next and see how that runs. I have a feeling that it's actually going to be really, really good. And then we'll see how much of a jump is going to be to the 7900 XTX. Now let's go ahead and check out 4K on the 6800 XT, because we should be able to get a pretty good gaming experience at 4K as well. Instead of the ultra quality preset, this time we'll drop to the high quality preset. And again, we have to turn off VSync because it turns it on automatically. And what I'm also going to do so we can squeeze even more performance is drop the resolution scale to 85%, because it actually does a really good job in my experience. I can't really notice the difference anyway. So why not? Okay, so here's another unranked map. We're actually doing pretty good as far as performance. Very nice frame times, 112 FPS, 1% lows, 104 FPS averages. Even if we go ahead and skip about 5 minutes ahead, we're still 140 something FPS averages and 110 1% lows. I kept an eye on it. It actually stayed right around there, very consistent, which is kind of what you want to see. So yeah, 6800 XT, you know, unsurprisingly does really well in this game. I bet you could do 4K native and even max out all the graphical settings and be above 60 FPS, no problem. So yeah, I think we get the idea. 6800 XT destroys the game. Let's go ahead and check out the 7900 XTX. That should be even higher. So let's take a look and try another unranked random map where I'll probably end up getting destroyed again. Story of my life. I guess I keep making enough of these videos, I'll probably end up being a pro, right? Right? Anyway, let's check out the 7900 XTX. Now we're on the Nitro Plus 7900 XTX, and we're going to begin with 1440p, the ultra graphical preset again. So it's going to be the same thing as the 6800 XT, so we should be able to see, you know, how big of a difference it is between these two. And let's jump into another random map. And then we'll take a look at 4K. And then I'll also test 4K with maximum graphical settings. Right away here we can see that we're definitely getting a noticeable bump in the FPS here between the 6800 XT and 7900 XTX, and on top of that we seem to be slightly CPU bound. Our GPU use keeps dropping into the low 90s in some cases, so I bet you if I had used my 7800 X3D it'd probably be a little bit faster, but still I think the 5900X is an excellent CPU. And I mean, as you can see, our frame times have been really good, which is very important. And yeah, this is actually very impressive. I actually did a little bit better in this match. I guess I'm just improving as I make these videos. But I actually had fun. This map was quite a lot of fun, if I'm being honest. Kind of reminded me of Halo, Halo 3. Remember there was a map with a bridge where you know, like one team started on one side of the bridge and the other on the other. That was a lot of fun back in the day. Speaking of which, I did play quite a bit of Halo back in the day, and I did like that one a bit more than this style of game. See, the time to kill in this game is like, I mean, if someone gets the first shot, you're pretty much done, unless you're like have excellent aim. But with Halo, you had more of a chance to survive and kind of recuperate and try again. I think I like that style of PvP better. But again, I'm not really huge into PvP, but I am enjoying this game, like I said. And the 7900 XTX crushes 1440p. As a matter of fact, why don't we go ahead and compare it to the 6800 XT briefly, just out of curiosity. We have the 6800 XT on the left and the 7900 XTX on the right. We're running same exact 1440p resolution with the same ultra graphical preset, and you can see how much faster the 7900 XTX is. It is 53% faster on the average FPS and 30% faster on the 1% lows. That's a pretty decent jump, actually. Either way, though, they're both great. They both provide a high refresh rate experience, 1440p or 4K. I think you'd have an excellent gaming experience, which actually looks really good as well. But anyway, what about 4K? Let's take a look at 4K on the 7900 XTX, because that's what the 7900 XTX was pretty much made for, and I think it's going to crush it here. Let's take a look at 4K. So we're targeting 4K here, 100% resolution scale, and we're going with the ultra graphical preset, which, mind you, does not actually max every graphical setting. We are also going to test that next, but for now let's take a look at just the ultra preset 100% resolution scale on the 7900 XTX. Alright guys, native 4K here. 7900 XTX is absolutely crushing it. We have 120 FPS for 1% lows, which is really good, and 160 FPS for averages. For example, I'm actually playing on a 120 Hz 4K OLED display, so for me this would be more than plenty. But if you had a one of the newer OLEDs, you could definitely get it probably even higher if you lowered some of the settings. Again, this is 100% res scale with the ultra graphical preset. There's a lot of performance to be gained because you can scale to 85%, 75%, and also 50%. And just based off what I've seen, the resolution scaler in the game does a really good job here. But yeah, 7900 XTX absolutely crushes it here. I think we're in a good position to go ahead and max all the graphical settings out, because we definitely have the horsepower to do it. And I'm actually also curious to see what the performance hit would be if we went ahead and maxed all the graphical settings out. The game looks absolutely great now that we've maxed out all the settings. Although even at low, I didn't think it actually looked bad. It looked pretty decent. But with all graphics settings maxed out, it definitely looks quite a bit nicer. So if you like the eye candy, it's definitely doable on this GPU, as you would probably expect. But yeah, let's take a look at maximum graphical settings. Alright, so let me show you the settings here. Like I mentioned previously, setting it to the ultra preset does not max everything out, but I've gone ahead and manually maxed everything out. It actually leaves out quite a few settings. But here we go, maximum graphical settings.
Capture zone contested.
So I've skipped ahead a few minutes into the fight here, and looking at the numbers, actually, it's not a huge difference, believe it or not. The 1% lows are still around 110 FPS. It's what we were getting before. The averages are about 10 FPS less, so not really that big of a noticeable difference. So there you go. If you want to get more performance in this game, I would utilize the resolution scale and then just tweak the graphical settings as needed. I'm sure there is some settings that, I'm sure like if you went from the ultra to the low preset, there would be a noticeable difference, but just going from ultra to manually maxing everything out, there really isn't much of a difference here, actually, which is nice. I mean, the game is, if I was to be playing this game on this GPU, I would probably play it like this on a 4K screen. I think this type of FPS for someone like me, you know, who's not a pro, as actually I'm a beginner, I would consider myself in these type of games. I think it's perfectly fine. I think the performance is great. But yeah, I mean, the game is very well optimized based off my own testing. We were able to actually get around 130 FPS with the Ryzen 2600, which is a pretty old CPU, you know, that even when it came out, it wasn't particularly known to be, you know, like a great gaming CPU. Not really. It was actually not that good. As a matter of fact, just to show you, here's footage with the Ryzen 2600 and an RTX 4090 at 1080p low graphical settings. We're 100% CPU bound. And as you can see, we have 113 FPS for 1% lows and 160 FPS for FPS averages. So basically what I'm trying to say is the game is so well optimized as far as CPU and GPU that you could run a Ryzen 2600 and an RTX 4090 and probably get close to 120 FPS for 1% lows. That is actually very impressive, guys. I personally find it so, but yeah. But anyway, this video's gone long enough. I wanted to test this just because I was curious to see how scalable this game is, and I wouldn't actually mind playing this on my Steam Deck, but I don't think that's possible with the game being a Ubisoft game and probably the anti-cheat. I'm not sure what anti-cheat it uses, but the game is extremely scalable, guys. You could probably build a $100 PC and be able to enjoy it just fine. But that's the results. I wanted to test my GPUs. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below, and give the video a like if you liked it. It does help me greatly, and consider subscribing if you like this type of content. And I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next one. I hope you guys all have a great day, and yeah, check the game out if you like these type of games. It's free to play, and I'm having fun, and I'm not really that into it. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Damn it, I keep dying.